Welcome to the second chapter of this podcast. In this, we will see some problems in the midst of the pandemic and how they have unfolded. Let's start with the escalation of unemployment, now known as unemployment, the new pandemic, which in March was just a mouthful of the critical situation that the coronavirus pandemic will leave on the labor front. Unemployment in Colombia rose to 12.6% in March, 1.8 percentage points more than the same month the previous year, and the worst record in the last decade. This means 290,000 people more unemployed, bringing the number to 2.9 million people. However, this isn't the most worrying piece of information, nor the one that best reflects the magnitude of the impact of isolation measures on the economic activity. The DANI announced a drastic drop in the number of employed persons, which went from 22.1 to 20.5 million. In other words, around 1.6 million people became inactive population, a drop in the occupancy rate of 5.9 percentage points. So the situation is much more serious than what the figures are telling us. That is one of the problems caused by the speed at which events associated with COVID-19 are unfolding. In short, the central uncertainty at this time for the authorities, businessmen, and analysts is how far the impact will go, and with the unemployment rate the country should face the post-pandemic. Finally, I want to share the data on the unemployment rate in May, which in Colombia stood at 21.4%, which means that 5 million people are unemployed compared to the same period last year when the index was 10.5%. Also, in 13 cities and metropolitan areas, the unemployment rate was 24.5% compared to 11.2% in 2019. On the other hand, there is the issue of mental health in the midst of the pandemic that can be stressful for many people. Since it's normal for there to be fear and anxiety regarding a new disease and what could happen. So it's overwhelming and generates strong emotions in both adults and children. Since all care measures can make people feel isolated and lonely, it's possible to increase stress and anxiety. So dealing with stress in a healthy way will strengthen you and strengthen your loved ones and your community. Stress during the outbreak of an infectious disease can in certain cases include reactions such as first, fear and concern about your health and the health of your loved ones, your financial or work situation, or the loss of support services on which you depend. Second, changes in sleep or eating patterns. Third, difficulty sleeping or concentrating. Fourth, aggravation of chronic health or mental health problems. And fifth, greater consumption of tobacco and or alcohol and other substances. Finally, the most important thing we should know in this type of situation is that we should not lose our calm and seek help if we will that our mental health by all this is very affected, because in one way or another someone can advise us. It's also very important to remember that sooner or later we will get out of this. So we invite you not to despair.
Virtual classes. The third thing we will talk about in this chapter will be about classes, virtual classes. We will be to take the methodology in Colombia. The measurement of virtual classes has been implemented since March 16 of the current year 2020. This methodology consists on teachers communicating with their students through a virtual platform, where thanks to this they can teach their class, be practical and dynamic, and also ensure that your information reaches all your students. On these platforms, a normal class is taught, where it's very helpful online exam assignment on the respective institutional platform. And this is how each student fulfills his homework. The platform have a good technology. It has camera, microphone, audio, chat for everyone, and with an incredible connection since several of these are used around the world. And it's very rare that they present difficulties. The students attend where it's verified in each subject, and they all attend luckily. They don't have problems with their connection. So the schedule must be implemented since and in the respective school in the morning or in the afternoon. The main problems that have arisen are on the part of the students, since the networks and the internet are not always viable for us to take classes. Therefore, it has always been difficult for all of us to adapt to this measure. And on the part of the teacher, their duty is to be understanding and to make the information viable to all, being clear and concise as in school. More than everything, these changes, difficult methodologies, strategies serve to adapt to everything that happens in the world. Since we are all being affected by these employees, the economy, the students, and that act where we find several people in a social circle. So the small conclusion and motivation for those students is that we continue to fight for our dreams, to learn, to receive that information.
Increase in COVID-19 cases. Since the virus appeared, coronavirus cases increased rapidly, and for this reason many countries decide to quarantine. However, after being isolated for many months, many countries decide to open the economy and return to their normal lifestyle because a lot of people were going into crisis, running out of work, running out of money to eat, to pay for the service, to pay for the children's education, among others. Since this economic reopening, coronavirus cases have increased dramatically. This can be seen reflected in countries such as the United States and Brazil, where precautionary measures and social isolation were not taken correctly and are now one of the countries with the highest number of infections and deaths in the world. In Colombia, after being in a strict quarantine for almost 3 months, the government decided to reopen some economic sectors on the condition that all the people had complied with the precautionary measures responsibly and having their respective work permit. In other words, the trips to other places, the reopening of businesses like gyms, cinemas, restaurants, and bars will remain closed. However, since this decision was made, the number of coronavirus cases in the country has increased too much, ranging between 1,000 and 3,000 new cases per day. This is because many people don't comply and don't respect the measures of security and precaution, doing things that are not allowed, such as parties, opening restaurants and bars, going out without permit or safety equipment, which puts the health of many people at risk, causing the advanced increase of COVID-19 in the country.
On the other hand, there is the issue of mental health in the midst of the pandemic that can be stressful for many people. Since it's normal for there to be fear and anxiety regarding a new disease and what could happen. so it's overwhelming and generates strong emotions in both adults and children. Signs or care measures can make people feel isolated and lonely. It's possible to increase stress and anxiety. So, dealing with stress in a healthy way will strengthen you and strengthen your loved ones and your community.
Now we have to do almost everything at home using technology. As many students do their virtual classes, some people who now work virtually, people who just want to spend time and talk to friends and family, and celebrations such as birthdays. All these done through video calls. Also, as the restaurants are closed, all food purchases have to be done through home delivery, as well as the purchases of clothes, which has to be done online because the shopping malls are closed. Finally, despite the fact that places like gyms and relaxation were closed, something that depends on us is that we should continue to exercise and meditate because it's something that helps our body and mind to be healthier, and so that our relationship with others and with ourselves remains stable.